Hey, what's going on out there, everybody? It's Main Spot. It is almost 6 o'clock p.m. here on the East Coast here in New York City. Hope everyone's having a very solid Monday. If you joined me earlier for a little live lunchtime edition of the Wrestling Drive, things went a little haywire. I do apologize. I completely underestimated the heat here in New York City, and midway through our live show, boom, phone was done, and it was needed to cool down. I've never even heard of this in my entire life. But I guess the phone was a little overheated. But thankfully, we're back on the road now, and let's do it. So last night, WWE Extreme Rules. I will say, going into the show, I had for some reason unrealistically high hopes. I wouldn't say that. I think it was I didn't really have any hopes for the show. But if there's one thing I will say, WWE does a good job day of, if you're following along on like their YouTube page, of really promoting their Extreme Rules show. And really any pay-per-views that they do. They have those WWE Now specials hosted by Catherine Kelly and Mike Rome. And honestly, for what they are, I think they're pretty solid little pieces. Yesterday they had Rollins, they had the B Team, they had Carmella and Ellsworth on there. And if you're like just kind of moseying on down, trying to get yourself amped for the show, those WWE Now pieces really do a good job. They had a lot more of them, obviously, during WrestleMania weekend, but they continue to do them. They did one for Backlash, and they did them for the Extreme Rules last night, and they do them kind of on location, so they're pretty cool little pieces. So I dug that. I thought overall the show was a little bit of a letdown, though. I think it was Sean Ross Sapp over at Fightful.com who put up a tweet yesterday mentioning the sheer mass of people who were left off of the event yesterday. I think like The Miz and they didn't have Samoa Joe, and I mean, just those two guys alone, those are probably going to be your two top contenders for AJ Styles' title going into SummerSlam. Neither of them were anywhere on that show last night, and that's pretty crazy. And I think that as time's gone, it'll be interesting to see if WWE continues to build each pay-per-view as dual-branded. Clearly, they have massive rosters on each side, and if you saw yesterday, they had 12 matches. And not too many of the matches were really all that long. So I think, while it's great to get everyone on the card, I think that if they kind of harken back to those SmackDown-only, Raw-only pay-per-views, I feel like they can really, I think they'd be doing themselves a better service of allowing each brand to be profiled. Look at a guy like Jinder Mahal. Say what you will about Jinder. He was a real focal point in many of the SmackDown pay-per-views kind of moving forward. I mean, all of last year for 2017. And just won the U.S. title at WrestleMania this past year, and now isn't even on the regular televised shows. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with the pay-per-views. I know it's always great to, have all hands on deck, so to speak, for the pay-per-views and have them dual-branded, but at the same time, I think that it gives guys a bigger chance to be profiled when there's a single-brand pay-per-view. I mean, just last night, Sanity gets a huge win over the New Day, kind of career-defining for them. Let everyone know they will take place on the pre-show. So, kind of go back to those kind of reviews and have more of an opportunity to showcase everyone. A very round the main event. I know Lesnar, but I was a little surprised to see that going on last, especially when AJ Styles retained in his match against House. So that right there should be the main event. You had Ronda Rousey in the crowd for Nia Jax versus Alexa Bliss. Make a strong argument that should have been the main event because the crowd was super into Ronda. I thought Ronda looked awesome in her match. And on top of that, you also had Bobby getting a new era maybe as a top guy, or at least in reintroducing that, hey, Bobby Lashley is here. Bobby Lashley's a solid, he's an upper echelon type guy. He's kind of a step above. No offense to them, but the Finn Balor's and maybe like that U.S. title, Intercontinental title mix right now. He's right there with your Roman Reigns, your Braun Strowman, those guys. And I think, imagine the reaction today if Lashley beats Roman Reigns to end the show. I think that could have been definitely something that could have really built up and definitely made the main event. That said, I always remember there was that one pay-per-view where they went up against Trump and Hillary, the debate, and clearly the match everyone was looking most forward to was The Miz and Dolph Ziggler for the Intercontinental title. And despite all of that, they put that on in the middle of the show and ended with a pretty cold Randy Orton versus Bray Wyatt match. And so it was nice to see Dolph kind of get his due and kind of get that main event slot against Rollins. But it was weird placement, especially because in a normal match, these guys, Seth Rollins went like 45 minutes with the top guys there without a single pinfall. In these Iron Man matches, they were having pinfalls right and left. They had 9 pinfalls in just a bit over 30 minutes with the extra little sudden death overtime. So it's too much, and it's just unrealistic to think that these guys would be having 9 pinfalls in that short amount of time. The crowd, I mean, yeah, I think a lot of people are a little pissed at the crowd, especially, these guys are out there busting their ass, and the crowd is doing 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 countdowns. That being said, the crowd's been sitting there now for 4 hours. What do you want them to do? They're a little bored, They're, I don't know if they're bored. I think they're just fried. It's hard to continue to get up, especially when, in an Iron Man match, you're going to be sitting there for 35 minutes, 30 plus minutes, so you have to continue to be invested in. It's tough when you have already seen so much. And as far as that countdown goes, I went to the Royal Rumble earlier this year, and before they opened up the doors, they have that countdown going off. And I know for every minute as it got down to 10, 9, 8, 7, the entire crowd did the Royal Rumble countdown, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, for each minute as it went to the end of that minute. So it's just something the crowd is thoroughly into. It's something the crowd is really excited about. They like to do it. They like to have fun with it. I personally, I think it's fair to the talent that's out there? I don't love it, but at the end of the day, I think I can kind of understand why the crowd is doing it. And at the same time, you've also got to remember that it's tough because a lot of these guys, the crowd, they're from Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh is super into every single thing. They're a hot wrestling town. Again, you get back to the fact that with the pre-show, if these guys have been there sometimes now 5 hours, they're amped, they're excited about everything going on. By the time Rollins comes out, who's like the hottest guy on the roster right now, crowd's a little bit tired, crowd's a little burnt, and definitely takes away from the enjoyment of the match when people are cheering for beach balls and a lot of other craziness. But I thought the countdown was funny. And I've been there, I've seen that. I guess that does happen now, and the crowd's really getting into it. So they should just take away the clock prior to the show, because I guarantee you the people that were there yesterday were doing the countdown prior to when the doors opened. And, you can't, it is what it is. You can't go nuts with it. Other thing I just wanted to mention about the show real quick, Kevin Owens, man, what a crazy man. Getting thrown off the top of the cage, down through a table. It looked like the least controlled since Foley had done it. But Kevin Owens, he's always been a big Mick Foley fan. He's always put Foley over really big. And just 20 years later in that same building, kind of harkening back to the King of the Ring 1998, Kevin Owens with a little homage to Mick Foley. So I give him credit. I personally, while I respect it, I'm just like, man, you'd only do so many of those. They always talk about the wrestler bump card, and that looks scary, and God forbid he misses that and he just lands on the ground. That could have been really, really bad. But Kevin Owens, I hope Braun Strowman bought Kevin Owens his favorite type of beer, favorite type of whiskey, or whatever it is, because he owed him one. Kevin Owens made him and continues to make him look like just the biggest monster of all time. So good stuff. I'm glad Kevin seems to be okay, though. But again, a tip of the cap. It was crazy, and I want to keep seeing things like that. I know that people hate when people who do podcasts and everything say that they don't want to see stuff like that. Like when I watch something from 1999 and Mick Foley's getting hit by a chair, it's brutal, but it's just part of the times of where you were at. You can kind of understand it, so you can appreciate it for what it was. This day and age, to be taking a bump like that off the top of the cage through a table, geez, I mean, it's nutty, and you feel like there's got to be a different way to do it and make it look impressive rather than that. But kudos to Kevin Owens, and again, just absolutely nuts. That brings us to tonight. So yeah, overall, I thought Extreme Rules was good. I feel like if you went back and watched these matches as standalone matches, I think you'd probably appreciate them a lot more than watching it in such a long, lengthy show. And I think that, a lot goes in there. Good to see Randy Orton back. I think that he was somebody that I was actually wondering if was he going to be a part of SummerSlam. So he's back there now. Looks like maybe they're going to set up Randy Orton and Shinsuke Nakamura, or Randy Orton and Jeff Hardy. And in one-on-one matches, I'm tired of 3-4-man matches, but in one-on-one matches, I think that those guys can really do a good thing and definitely be a big addition to the SummerSlam card. So good to see Randy Orton back. And overall, a decent show, but again, I would have liked to have seen, I did feel like it was a little lengthy, and I thought there wasn't as much emphasis put on some of the matches that there should have been. But again, great to see Ronda Rousey. She looks great as she does each time out, and feels like a huge deal every time. So that was great, and leads us to tonight. The Ultimatum set up for Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar either needs to agree to a title match. He needs to agree to. He needs to be there tonight to address Kurt Angle, or he's going to be stripped of the title. Logic would say Brock's coming, and they're going to set up Brock versus Lashley tonight. 5 weeks to build. A big match there between two kind of MMA/wrestler type guys. But I do think there's an outside chance they're going to strip Brock of the title. And maybe even set up Brock and Kurt at SummerSlam after he does get stripped of the title. Or maybe Brock just goes away. And can you imagine now, if the only times that Brock Lesnar's put anyone over clean since they gave him the Undertaker streak, which clearly when they gave the guy the Undertaker streak, the entire point of that was at some point someone's going to get put over by Brock Lesnar and look like just a major, major star. Could you imagine if the only clean pinfall loss that Brock Lesnar had done since that was to get over that hot up-and-comer, Bill Goldberg? I mean, seriously. It's insane to think that Brock has not had a clean victory, or a clean loss, rather, to one of these guys that he should be getting over. Whether you want it to be Roman Reigns, whether you want it to be AJ Styles, doesn't matter who you want it to be. At the end of the day, it should be someone. And I'm not sure it's going to be. So it's pretty crazy to see where we stand with that. But my logic would say, I think if Brock's not there tonight, I think Paul will be there tonight. I think they'll set up either Brock and Lashley, or they'll do another deal where it's Lashley versus Reigns, a rematch. Winner gets knocked, and then you might get Brock and let me random pedestrian crossing. Oh yeah, you gotta. They have the right of way, so you gotta let them do their thing. But yeah, man. I mean, I think that it's gonna be fun, and it should be interesting. It should be a good little Raw tonight. So make sure you guys keep subscribe right here to YouTube. I've been doing a lot of these little YouTube live videos and kind of checking in with each and every one of you guys, and the only way to make sure you're there, I try to put it out on Twitter. Sometimes I'm unable to. The only way to make sure that you are chimed in and you're logged in is just to make sure you subscribe, and to have it right here on the Twitter, on the YouTube, and make sure you guys remember, on Wednesday we'll be we'll be continuing our Watch Along Wrestling podcast as we watch along with a rather underrated show, Night of Champions 2009. CM Punk begins his first foray as a heel, and John Cena, Triple H, and Randy Orton rule over the Raw side of things and have a collision course for all three of them. It should be a lot of fun. Thank you guys so much for checking us out today, and be sure to be logged in, because tomorrow morning we should have a little update on my thoughts on Raw. Till next time, everybody, it's Man Tommy on the spot. You enjoy Monday Night Raw.